Get renewed. Vitamin E body cream. Revitalizes skin. Get it at your local Kroger. Anyway, what's up, guys? It's the ninth corner of the Octagon with Garrett and Lincoln, and today we have the second podcast going up on the channel this week. That is a first. Boom. There it is. Also, in a celebratory way, we just broke 10 episodes. This is the 11th. That's another cool thing. If you haven't checked out the previous episodes, make sure you do that right now. And in this episode, you guys, we are going over the recent UFC event that went up this past Wednesday. That's right. That is another first for the company. UFC Fight Night, technically 171, but for some reason they are not calling it that right now. They're just calling it UFC Fight Night, probably to just emphasize the fact that it's UFC Fight Night. You know, it's back. Boom, there you go. It's in your face.
On Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, my dudes. And
I pulled over the Octagon. Coming at you.
Exactly. It sounds perfect. You could slap that right onto a billboard right now, and you make millions of dollars. But it's mine, trademark. You can't freaking have it, you guys. Anyway, starting off here, we had a pretty crazy card. It was a very interesting card. However, that kind of it's kind of one of those things where it's like, no matter how cool it is to see UFC on a regular basis again, it's like after the hype train and the massive deliverance that came with UFC 249, going into this UFC Fight Night, there's a little bit of an underwhelming nature to it. I don't want to say it was disappointing, because far from it, but it was definitely one of those situations where we were really coming down from the high of UFC 249, you know? I don't know, it was kind of one of those things where I feel like the UFC really wanted to push the event to the middle of the week to really get get pretty much 1.5 times as many UFC events out in a single week than they would normally do, because you can usually go to one UFC event one night, and then next week, boom, you got another one, or maybe the longest you waited, maybe 2 weeks, boom, you got another one. But this time they squeezed 3 into 1, and part of me can't help but feel that in some ways it kind of had the reverse effect of what they were hoping for, you know. But that's just me. I still had a fun time watching in general, but it's just kind of like my overall impression, you know, in terms of how this fight night went down.
I second that. I feel like it kind of overshadowed it. But there was a lot of fun fights on this card. They just happened on the main card.
Yes. To briefly mention the prelims, they weren't bad. Nothing really terrible about them. They just, in relation to the main card, not that significantly entertaining. You know, probably the most entertaining fights: Hunter Asia, Brian Kelleher. And then Gabriel Benitez and Omar Morales probably being the best fight on the prelims, probably the most competitive and the most skilled fight on the card in general, I should say. Excuse me. There's some great finishes, no doubt. And the main event on the prelims was sort of a hit and miss. It was definitely a good showcase for Sahara Eubanks, but pretty much really nothing other than that. But anyway, yeah, let's go ahead and start this main card off here. We are continuing the format from last episode, meaning we start with the main event. Lincoln, would you like to take the reins on this one?
Yes, sir.
Then,
so I just want to say, was really excited to see these two competitors being Glover Teixeira and Anthony Smith to go at it. I thought it would be pretty even, and it was for the first round and a half or so.
Yes.
I forget exactly what round it was, but there was a punch that did in fact hurt Anthony Smith's eye, unlike what happened in the last card where Cowboy, or the referee who conducted Cowboy versus Showtime, I thought that a punch had hit him in the eye, but it was really an eye poke. This time, it was a punch that hurt his eye.
Yes. And then I think it was that. Wasn't there another instance where he thought it was a punch, or was that just one instance? Or was there actually a time where, oh no, I'm thinking about when Anthony Smith got a shot to the nuts.
Yeah, that also happened.
That also happened, but yeah, what you're talking about, I remember that happening. Yeah.
And pretty much from that point on, it was just Glover Teixeira systematically taking out Anthony Smith.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like it could have been stopped earlier.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with that. But here's the thing. In defense of that, I will say, and this is brought up expertly by Daniel Cormier and Paul Felder, but it was one of those things where Glover Teixeira was kind of getting in his own way in terms of getting a finish, because there would be times where he would be just raining down shots at Anthony Smith, but then he would just kind of like stop and then pursue the submission. Whereas if he didn't pursue the submission, because Anthony Smith was trying to get into the fight, but there were definitely more than a few occasions where Glover Teixeira would kind of end an onslaught to pursue the submission. He pursued the submission very, very often throughout the fight. And I think that was one of the reasons that Anthony Smith, even survived, was just because for a brief moment, Teixeira just stopped hitting him, and it gave Anthony Smith some hope. It was just once pretty much you got out of the second into the third, and then pretty much from then on, that was Teixeira's fight, and Anthony Smith was just pausing after every shot. He would just freeze after every heavy hit that hit him, especially in the fourth round. Excuse me. You definitely see that in the fifth round, but obviously the fifth round was a lot shorter. But you definitely see that a lot in the fourth, because that was probably where it was the most severe.
It was a beatdown.
Yeah, for sure. And it got to such a point where Anthony Smith was so hurt that Glover Teixeira got so comfortable in his striking. He was doing all different kinds of things. He was throwing spinning back kicks in there. Like that was amazing to me.
That was extremely athletic and just well timed, and it landed so perfectly that even my stomach hurt looking at it, because it was so fast and out of nowhere. Yeah, I mean,
he really did a great job. He really came out and showed at this fight, because I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like I definitely had Anthony Smith for this fight, and
I did as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not the only one that thought that. But he had the Vegas odds were in his favor. He just had a lot of things going for him, and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, Glover Teixeira just really came out on top here, and and Anthony Smith did his best, and he really tried to stay in the fight for as long as he could. But there was even one point during the fight where he came up to his corner and he said, "I'm spitting up teeth." You remember that?
Yeah.
And then it became a question, because that was like right before the fifth, and it pretty much became a question after that, where you kind of have to ask yourself, like, at what point is it up to the fighter's team, his teammates, to be able to throw in the towel for him, or to be able to say, "Hey, I don't think you can do this anymore. You're getting too busted up. You're getting too hurt," because obviously Anthony Smith was pretty much done. He was probably done, you could say, in the third, but by the time the fourth wrapped up, he was just done, because that's when he said, I think I'm spitting up teeth. Whatever he said, about spitting up teeth, but he meant
I think the exact quote is, "My teeth are falling out."
Yeah, like my teeth are falling out here. Like he's getting fucked up so bad. His face is fucked up. Both eyes cut, heavy bruising on that right eye. I mean, it's just getting swole at this point. And obviously his team keeps coaching him on, but you can clearly see in the fight he's pausing after every strike. He doesn't really have any kind of energy to put into this. He's really just taking shots and then waiting until the very last possible second to try and defend and make a comeback whenever, like Jason Herzog, barks at him, hey, I need to see some action, or I need you to defend yourself, or I'm going to have to stop this fight. And
he gave him a good chance.
He gave him so many chances, and Jason Herzog is good like that. Like he'll give you as much time as you need. Usually, he's very forgiving and very he lets the leash out pretty loose in terms of how far he's willing to let you get fucked up. Just because he knows how pissed fighters get. Like he wants it to be 100% justified. Because it's tough being a referee, and in some cases that might be to his detriment, because you could probably say that fight probably should have been stopped at a very earlier point than it did. It probably should not have gone into the fifth, just because of just how broken, damaged Anthony Smith was. So it's interesting, but eventually, Glover got that stoppage. He finally put Anthony Smith away, and he showed. He really showed out tonight. So good for him. And I don't want to make it sound like Anthony Smith didn't really, show up at all, or that he was 100% out of the game by the time he got knocked out, or by the time the fourth round was over. I just mean that kind of, he was being aggressive insofar as once he got the chance to be aggressive, he'd probably throw a two-piece combo and a little 1-2, and then Glover fires back with something that hits a lot harder, and then Anthony Smith is usually a counter puncher most of the fight, and he's really fighting. He's fighting his back off the cage for most of the fight. He's bouncing back and forth between Glover and the cage, and he really couldn't get footing in the latter half of the fight there.
He did the best he could for the night of the fight.
Yeah, he really did, and like you said, he got fucked up at a certain point, and that was kind of the turning point for the fight. And then after that, Glover just got fully erect and just completely dominated the rest of that fight. Really showed out, and that's good. Yeah, so now it's kind of one of those interesting questions, because with Anthony Smith being a former obviously both men are former title contenders, and they both fought for the title against the same man, but what does this mean now for Glover? Because being the age he's at, it's very significant for someone like him to be able to win over a high-level athlete like Anthony Smith, who is in a very good position in his career as well right now.
I agree. So I have a plan.
What's that?
So, we get the Dominic Reyes versus John Jones rematch, right?
Uh-huh.
And we have Jan Blachowicz fight him.
Ooh.
The number one contender of the winner of that match.
Why not?
Because I think that Dominic Reyes should be the rematch for John Jones as of right now, and I think Jan Blachowicz fighting Glover Teixeira would be a very interesting fight, because I think they might have fought before, but I'm not positive.
Right. Yeah, so let me see here. So Glover. Yeah, I mean there's plenty of options here. It's kind of one of those like stay and play kind of things, where there's plenty of people that are probably in line to get that second place after Dominic Reyes. You know what I mean? Thiago Santos is still he's making a comeback. He's planning on that comeback. And I think it was sometime this year, obviously before quarantine started and things kind of went sideways. But he's had extra time now, so he's probably still planning on making that recovery whenever he can. So yeah, so I don't doubt that Thiago Santos is probably going to take that second spot. Jan Blachowicz is probably going to come back before Thiago Santos and get his shot after Dominic Reyes. But the thing about that is that Glover Teixeira's got, he's got other people in front of him, I guess is kind of just what I'm saying. Like, it's not unheard of that he'd go head-to-head with Jan Blachowicz. I think that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really great because that would just be a good fight for Blachowicz. That'd be a great fight for Teixeira, because then that puts Teixeira back in title contention. So it's interesting. I'm interested because part of me also thinks that if Blachowicz is more focused on John Jones, then maybe Teixeira would be okay with fighting Corey Anderson. Maybe Corey Anderson needs that fight with Teixeira to boost himself back into title contention. You know how these matchmaking things go. There's so many different variables to how something like this can unfold. So yeah, that's just one of those stay and play kind of things, and just kind of wait it out, and then maybe I think the coolest thing is what you suggested. Out of everything, the coolest, best thing would be if Teixeira gets that fight with Blachowicz, waiting on Dominic Reyes, John Jones 2. So yeah, I think that'd be pretty awesome. I think that'd be pretty lit. So anyway, do you have anything else to say on those two gentlemen right there?
Moving on to our not so boy.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Now, honestly, I think this is probably the best fight on the card. In my opinion, I think the Anthony Smith Teixeira fight is really cool, but for some reason I just get a real kick out of watching someone like Ben Rothwell fight.
Me as well. I thought it was really, really interesting because he's like the big show of UFC.
Yeah, because it's really cool to see him fight when he's a really as big of a guy as he is, and he's still able to throw those kicks in there. Like he's a heavyweight that going up against this light heavyweight was almost able to fight like a light heavyweight. And he stayed on OSP pretty much the entire time. Vince did this thing a lot where he would try to escape from Ben, trying to get his back off the cage. Yeah, and
but he did do a lot of running.
He did a lot of running. I guess he was watching UFC 248. I'm kidding. Anyway, but yeah, I think this was cool for Ben. Ben Rothwell. He's I love this guy. I think he's crazy, but I think he's cool. I like seeing him fight. I like what he do, and OSP always great too. But at the same time, this was he did great. Don't get me wrong. This is definitely one of those gotta be a decision kind of fights because they were so close that I don't know, man. Because if it had kept going, this is what I asked myself. So by the time that the match had ended, both gentlemen, I think by that point, OSP had he was trying to work some kind of takedown bend, and I couldn't tell if it was working or not. But then, they break up, whatever, blah blah. And I think Ben Rothwell got like one takedown, and obviously he had more strikes than him. I don't know. It seemed like one of those things where it was oddly enough that the light heavyweight guy was losing his gas tank a lot faster than the heavyweight guy.
Yeah, but that's kind of OSP's thing.
Is it true?
Yeah, he that's like always been part of his. In this later half of his career, it seems like every fight he always blows his gas tank way faster than the opponent.
Damn. That sucks. But I think that was a good, clean fight from Ben Rothwell. You know?
No dick kicks.
Exactly. He didn't need the guy in the balls. In the testicles. In the genitalia. Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, that was a good fight. Very competitive, very nice. As you guys can probably tell, we're a little tired here. So moving on to Alexander Hernandez versus Drew Dober. I think this was my favorite fight of the card. You told me this earlier before we recorded that you said that this was your favorite. You thought this was. I really enjoyed this one because it just felt like they were both going for it, and whenever you heard Dober's fist smash into Alexander's face, it was just like I felt like I was there during this fight the most. Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. Alexander Hernandez came out looking good. Drew Dober came out, and I tell you, man, he was just so accurate with his strikes. He was just so purposeful, you know? Everything about him was just purposeful in his striking ability. And, excuse me. What was I saying? Yes. The Dober fight? Yes, I'm sorry. That Alexander Hernandez, well, Drew Dober obviously dominated, and Alexander Hernandez came out and he looked good. You know, he obviously looked physically fit. He looked like he'd been doing really well in the gym and stuff. But I don't know, some of his stuff looked a little bit wild, a little bit out of control. But yeah, Drew Dober seems like he was just one step ahead, you know, in terms of this little chess match that they had going on. Got some really heavy strikes on Alexander Hernandez, obviously in the second round there, and that's just kind of where he just kind of really just let it all shine, and he unloaded on the guy. I mean, Alexander Hernandez obviously gets in a pretty good takedown here or there. He gets a really good takedown in the second, thanks to the fact that you know, he wants to just stop this onslaught Drew Dober's throwing at him, so he just does a quick little spear trip, you know, get those double legs in there, and you know, get that takedown real quick, just to, you know, survive some more.
It was a pretty excellently timed takedown too, because I wasn't expecting it, and I was like, oh crap, this could change the whole fight right here. But he got up and defended it pretty well. Yeah, I mean
that's the kind of takedown where usually if you see that from some other guys, typically like if usually when other people are in that same situation, more often than not you'll catch guys getting sprawled on, you know, when they go for that takedown, or you know, they get like a knee to the face or something like that. Like that's a pretty tough situation to just immediately go into a solid takedown from, you know. Yeah. So I mean, that just shows his experience, and he's been around since like 2013 fighting. He's been like on and off again, so it's cool. It's cool to see him finally in the top 10 rankings. Yeah. Or top 15. Top 15. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, so he finally broke that. So good for Drew Dober. Yeah, because Alexander Hernandez obviously being the number 15 person beforehand, and then kind of sort of the unceremonious passing of the torch of that position between the two gentlemen last night. But yeah, it's Alexander's still young. He can work his way back up. He's got a lot of talent. You can really see the kind of talent he has. Right now, he's just kind of in that phase where he's kind of fighting a lot of these sort of not middle tier guys in terms of quality, but I just mean obviously in terms of where they're at. They're obviously in terms of where they are on the ladder, like what rung they're on a pretty relatively low, off the radar kind of shit, you know. And so that's kind of where Alexander Hernandez is right now, and he's kind of struggling to break into the top 15 again. He's kind of struggling right now to be a part of that higher echelon, but he's only 27. He's got so much more room to grow. He's got a ton of potential, so there's no doubt that in the near future we could be seeing a lot more of Alexander Hernandez. Obviously, we'll see a lot more of Drew Dober, but we'll also probably see a lot more of Alexander Hernandez whenever he makes whatever adjustments he needs to come back and hopefully go on a new win streak and possibly fight Drew Dober for the second time. So that'd be pretty cool, and it'd be cool to see where Drew Dober goes from here. Because it's always fun to see rising talents. It's always fun to see these prospects coming up. I know Drew Dober has been on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, I'm pretty sure. Like most people.
This was the tough finale.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He was on the tough finale.
And he even fought back when UFC was still on Fox.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool to see when he finally starts. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously not young. He's like 31 or something like that. But it's just pretty cool to see, the man finally being on people's radar. And hopefully, I guess I'm trying to say he'll be on the up and up. Yeah, but sorry, I'm checking something on Drew Dober real quick. I was checking to see what year he did the Ultimate Fighter finale.
I think it was 18.
It was 2013.
I meant the season was 18.
The season was 18. I thought it said 2018. But it was season 18, 2013. Crazy. Anyway, moving on, like you said.
I also thoroughly enjoyed this one in the third round.
Yes, this one was pretty good too. Ray Borg.
It was more fun than anything.
Yeah, this was the kind of typical competitive, fun fight to watch at like a bar or something. Like this is the kind of shit you would see on TV, and just be like, wow, man, now I just want to watch some UFC.
Ray Borg is getting a little old.
He is, yeah. He is getting a little old there. Losing to guys like Ricky Simone. Like, not saying that Ricky Simone's bad or anything.
I mean, Ricky Simone's fought two legends very recently. He lost to Uriah Faber, and now he beat Ray Borg. So he's on the up and up after two losses.
Yeah, so that's good for him. He needs that. He's young. He needs that boost to his career. Ray Borg, former title fighter who fought Demetrius Johnson. Lost, but he's Ray Borg.
And now he was missing weight, so now he had to move up a weight class. So he's not really doing as well.
Yeah, so now it's just a matter of where's Ray Borg gonna go from here now? Because it's one of those weird situations where it's not like Cowboy Cerrone, where he's a guy that has fought for titles and lost and loses to some guys here and there, but the difference is that like Cowboy Cerrone is still like pretty high level elite. It can hang with the best of them and kind of hangs out.
You just won't let this go, will you?
I can't. Anyway.
You're always thinking about Cowboy.
I can't help it, man.
I know, I'm just playing.
And then,
but yeah, I felt like Ray Borg did really well at certain times. I feel like Ricky Simone really dominated. I did think the last 10 seconds was a lot like the one Diego Sanchez fight with Max Holloway.
Oh yeah.
Where they fought with, or not Max.
Not Diego Sanchez.
Yeah, I think that too. It was Diego Sanchez, and I just remember
Diego Sanchez and. Are you thinking of Diego Sanchez and Clay Guida?
Yeah, Clay Guida, where they both just started throwing hands in the last 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good fight.
It reminded me a lot of that when they were exchanging bodies and just swinging into the end, and then the siren or the horn buzzed.
this was just a fight where it was fun to even be able to like hear what they were saying during the fight, you know? Like,
yeah, when they were talking smack, that was real fun. That's always like the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, like I think Ray Borg said something like, "Come on, kid," and then Ricky Small was like, "Dude, I'm older than you."
That's wonderful. I'm just glad that Ricky Simone finally cut his hair.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
I'm tired of that mullet.
Yeah, I mean, he has the sides shaved off, but you know it was really funny when the fight started and Bruce Buffer was introducing him. He kind of did like this pantomime thing where he kind of like reached behind his head and then he pulled back nothing and he made this like really surprised face. Like he was like, "Holy shit, my mullet!" Yeah, but that was crazy. That was a good fight.
Good stuff.
Oh man, we're pretty much we're close to the end here. We got up next. We got Andre Arlovsky versus Felipe Lins.
Now, Felipe just came over from Bellator. This was his UFC debut, and I don't think he passed it very well.
No, he didn't. I mean, he did pretty good for the most part in terms of his striking ability. I thought that was pretty sharp. I thought that his leg kicks were, or I mean just more in terms of his range overall, I guess I could surmise, was that he had good range. I think he had a good pace. I think it just kind of boiled down to Andre Arlovsky just having those really nice, short, kind of just really close to the body punches, you know? Like he's got those kind of arms where, and that kind of fighting style where his self is kind of really scrunched in so that he can get those really heavy power shots like in close, you know, in really close, tight situations, you know, really hard hooks. I think that's how he gets some of the best hooks, you know, off of in the heavyweight division, because I mean he hits really hard in that, you know, range, in that manner, in that style. And I think when it came to his ability to get up in Andrew Lynn's face and just kind of remove the range and kind of remove the sort of spider monkey like length that Lynn's had, kind of Arlovsky negates that and really kind of dominated with his ability to fuck that guy up in terms of how close they could be to one another and just who was able to deliver the stronger punches within that distance.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that it was interesting that Arlovsky's new style, instead of brawling out and getting knocked out in a huge exchange like he's been doing, like he did in the later half of his career, the last like 4 fights he's won by decision by just making it a point game.
Yeah.
And I think that's very interesting that he switched to that, to this now like almost third stage of his career that he's had.
Yeah, I mean but if you really, you know, delve into that, that's kind of smart. I mean, it's weird and it's a little interesting, but Andre Arlovsky at this stage in his career kind of has to do stuff like that, you know. You know, Andre Arlovsky is 41 years old, and we all know. I mean, people were saying, you know, back during like 2011, I think they were saying that he should probably hang it up because his chin wasn't what it used to be.
It's just that the style didn't go well with him anymore. I think that's all it was. Yeah,
and then so as time went on, and that's what's so interesting about Andre Arlovsky at this point in his career is because he has accomplished what many fighters can fail to do, and that is evolve. You know, and evolve in such a way where they can adapt and give themselves some longevity. You know, like he's really able to keep himself afloat in this, you know, shark's tank of heavyweights that they've got in the UFC. You know, like he's able to say, oh well, if I'm gonna get my shit kicked in because I'm taking too many shots to the face because of the way my style kind of leaves me open, or because I charge in, then, well, he kind of...
What if I just don't get hit as much?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if I just kind of keep my large, very tall, 6'3" frame inched backwards, and then just kind of let my arms do the talking, Just kind of...
All in all, it's a pretty great performance with all facts considered.
Yeah. Plus, he looks really good with that beard he grew out.
Yeah, now he grew into it very well.
Yeah. Now he looks
like the heavyweight champion Arlovsky with the long hair.
Yeah. Wonder if we'll ever see those days again.
I mean, he was crazy ripped and super lean to be the heavyweight champion when he was.
Yeah. Yeah. Looking at some old pictures right now. Oof.
It's pretty great. You should watch whenever he was the heavyweight champion, because he had a crazy fast knockout that you almost had to watch in slow motion to see how it happened.
Right. So yeah. So that's how that fight.
You want to hear something? You want to hear something crazy?
Absolutely.
So it turns out that Michael Johnson's weakness is wrestling.
Really?
Because it seems like every time he's lost, it's been through wrestling. Or getting stopped by Justin Gaethje, but...
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the exception there.
But he looked really well in the stand-up, which the craziest part is that Thiago actually won with landing one punch.
Wait, I'm sorry, repeat that?
Thiago only landed one punch throughout the fight, but won by submission in the second round.
Yeah, I mean, Johnson definitely had him swamped in terms of volume, in terms of just what Michael Johnson was putting out. Because I mean, he looked pretty sharp in the first round. He looked really sharp, and then I think it just kind of became one of those things where it's like as soon as it went to the ground for Michael Johnson, Thiago. I'm gonna butcher the name. I know Moses. I'm just gonna call him Thiago. But Thiago, he just sunk in. He basically just reversed it. He got some good shots in, and he was able to just sink in the what was it? It was a rear naked, right? Or was it a...
No, it was a leg lock.
No, that's right. You're right. Thank you so much for reminding me, because it's like I've got something else playing on the screen in front of me. It's like a different fight with Michael Johnson, and so it's like getting me all confuzzled. And
well, stop doing that.
I know. It's just kind of like involuntary. It just happens. But
yeah. So Michael Johnson was lighting him up for the first round, and then 25 seconds into the second round, he shot deep, got the leg lock, and it seemed like Michael Johnson just kind of let it unfold in front of him. Like, he didn't seem like he defended it very strategically.
Yeah, I mean, it was peculiar, to say the least, because it's definitely not the best Michael Johnson's looked. And
he tapped twice.
Yeah, because the ref, I guess, just didn't see it the first time.
He didn't see it the first one, because from his perspective, it did look like he just adjusted his hand onto his leg to try to push it.
Yeah.
So he went around to the other side, and Michael Johnson looked at him, realized he didn't see the first one, and tapped again.
Yeah, he definitely knew when Michael Johnson started screaming. It's crazy to think that Michael Johnson is at a point in his career where he's 4 losses away from breaking even. Yeah,
right. That's a crazy stat. It's crazy that he went from number 6 in the world at lightweight, knocking out Dustin Poirier, to where he is now.
Yeah, it's like this crazy decline almost. I mean, even right now, he's on a 3-fight losing streak right now.
Yeah, this is like I was saying in the last video, there's just some people that would do much better at Bellator at this point in their careers.
And, Michael Johnson's one of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's definitely still a pretty legit, high-level striker.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He could definitely be a champion in a different organization because he's got mad hands.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he can compete at this level anymore, especially with his record catching up to his wins.
Yeah, and then you also got to take into account, his cardio. Like, because I think back to his really good fight with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz was able to really outpace Michael Johnson there. Michael Johnson, he always does a good job of pouring on the heat when he really needs to, and really just doing the little pops, pop, 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 pow. He's got the speed, he's got the agility, and he's got the stamina, but only up to an extent. Because it's just, I guess, really the big thing to take away when it comes to where Michael Johnson is at right now, or where he's been at for a few years, is that he is one of those people where every once in a while he'll pull out a really awesome win, but then he has those moments where he's kind of like the typical saying, he's the jack of all trades, but he's a master of none. Like I can think of three big huge things right off the bat. Cardio, like I said earlier, fight with Nate Diaz, he got swamped, and he's got good cardio, but Nate's got really good cardio, and so Nate is a master of cardio. Michael Johnson just can't compare to that kind of level. Then you move on to his fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov. He loses that fight, but Michael Johnson is supposed to be a wrestler. He's also fighting a pretty advanced grappler, but Khabib is like a master in that kind of art. Michael Johnson's not. Plus, Khabib is super stacked and beefy and stuff. And Michael Johnson's just kind of got that lanky sort of range, quickness, He's not supposed to be overwhelmingly strong, you know what I'm saying? And then he fights people like Justin Gaethje, Justin Gaethje's a great striker. Michael Johnson's a great striker. But Justin Gaethje just knocks him the fuck out. Michael Johnson cannot compete with that level of striking. So it almost seems like Michael Johnson is just really like the definition of that guy who is like, he just, like, what's the best way to say it?
He's above average, but he's not great.
Yeah, like he's definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's obviously losing to guys now, and I think he's just on a...
He's a legitimate fighter. I just don't know if he's at the tier level to compete at this level anymore.
Yeah.
Most of his losses are to notable guys, but this is like the first one where it's a much lower guy who took him out really easily.
I mean, you've also got guys like... people like Stevie Ray.
I mean, he beat Tony Ferguson early in his career.
Yeah, I mean, he's beaten Dustin Poirier too. I mean, he
knocked him out.
He's beaten Edson Barboza. He's beaten, yeah, like you said, Tony Ferguson. He's beaten. No one's saying that Michael Johnson hasn't beaten tough guys. Nobody. Hopefully, it's cool to see that there's at least enough respect on Michael Johnson's name in the community that nobody can say he sucks ass. But
yeah, he's definitely not bad. Like every single fight, almost, he's in a highlight reel, but sometimes he's not in it for the right reason.
Yeah, and that kind of extends to what happened this past Wednesday. So that's
exactly.
But that's pretty good for Thiago Moises, forgive me. Whatever. That's good for him because that's going to elevate him to a higher echelon as well. That's every time you get Michael Johnson under your belt, it's kind of a recognition kind of thing. People recognize that you went through a tough fight, and that's kind of what that guy needed right now. So he got that, and hopefully that puts him in a pretty decent, safe position. So good on him. Wish him well. And wish the same for Michael Johnson, all you out there, and all of us as well. Michael Johnson also needs that comeback. He needs to get off this skid. I think he's still got something in him. So he's still got the fire, obviously, or else he wouldn't be here. He's not one of those people that just fights because he doesn't have any other option. He fights because he likes to fight. So yeah. How about them apples?
Now, not only have we had 2 cards very close together, but it's not even over yet. There's one this Saturday, May 16th, also at Jacksonville Arena.
Oh my goodness. Let me look at this.
We got O'Brien versus Walt Harris, and I think it's going to be a great fight.
Same. Unfortunately, it's not going to be on ESPN Plus.
Hey, guess what? I'm going to watch it on my cable.
Good for you, you son of a gun. I'll just let you.
Hey, I'll talk all the juicy details. I'll leave the podcast next week.
Sounds fun. At least we doubled up. So yeah, I mean that's a pretty decent card. That's a stack. That's a pretty nice. How is it? That's not a bad looking prelims. Go off to a good start. And the main card it's got Song Yudong, which is pretty cool, I guess. Oh, Marlon Vera, that's not bad at all. Edson Barboza, Dan Ige, it's gonna be good.
Claudia Gadelia and Angela Hill.
Yep, I always like to see Angela Hill. And of course, Alistair Overeem's a legend. So Alistair Overeem's a legend. Walt Harris is also a legend. And they're in respective rights to each man, you know. And so it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be fun to see. These guys doing their thing. Can't wait. And I hope everybody out there can also not wait, because that's it. The show's over. Get out of here. I'm just kidding.
Why are you still here? The credits are rolling.
Exactly.
We're both wearing red robes in our hallway. Can you just get out of here? What are you doing?
Exactly. Come on, guys.
Right. Hey, I hope everybody's being safe and everybody involved with UFC and every other organization certainly having people who work in are doing great too. Have a great night, guys.
Exactly. We love you guys. Good night.
Peace.